What's happening, financial coaches? It's Pete here. I want to talk to you something just off the cuff. This is something I saw, and um, you know, I'm kind of shocked, saddened, surprised, disappointed, slightly enraged. Basically, and obviously, I'm not going to read the comment specifically here, but I want to talk to you about conflict of interests. The situation is this for this person that they work for an organization, a nonprofit organization, who has paid for their certifications. So they are in the financial coaching world. They have certification training, and they provide these services to people. And they provide them because people donate money to this organization. So that's how they pay for all of these services. The organization has a strict policy that you do not provide these services outside the organization for money. That's just the policy. I think it's a very fine policy. I've worked for financial services companies, and they have something called no OBA clauses, which is no outside business activities. No outside business activities, not some or de minimis. In fact, I know a guy. I knew a guy at the time I was there, and his brother-in-law got sick one day, just for a couple days, and he was a bartender, and one of my coworkers had been a bartender in the past and filled in for him one night. Just did like a Friday evening shift or something like that. Made some money doing it, like $125 in tips and pay and blah 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 blah. He got fired for that. As a financial analyst, you would think there's no issue with that. But the policy is when you take the job and you cash the paycheck, the policy is the policy. And when the policy is no outside business activities and you conduct an outside business activity and you get paid for it and you do not disclose it beforehand and get permission for that, which most likely they won't do, that is a firing offense. That's terminable offense. And he did get let go for it. No severance. That was a terminating, a career ending event for him. And in fact, when that happens, especially in financial services, if you are licensed, some of those things will go on your license history, and another company that hires you will be able to see that. So you will have a record, and broker check has those records and things like that. So I just want to explain that. And you might say, well, why for $100 filling in as a bartender would that get him fired from his financial analyst job? Well, the reality is a lot of people look to financial analysts for advice. And so when you are reviewing things and you're looking at these investments, you're trying to decide where people should put their money, you are putting together recommendations, those types of things. What I want to know as a client, if you're giving me that advice, that you don't have income coming from anywhere that might bias your advice. Okay. So in kind of a distinct way, if you're saying, hey, I like ABC Aluminum Company, I think they're a great investment. I think the future is great. And I find out that ABC Aluminum Company is hiring you to come to their offices to speak and to, talk to their employees or to tour their factories or whatever it might be, right? That is a conflict of interest. That's kind of the obvious one. That's the one that we're trying to prevent. But it doesn't have to be quite like that. And you could argue, well, maybe I've, got the side gig at the bar, and I like this bar, and I'm seeing a lot of people come out and eat, and I want more people to come out and eat and go to bars. And I say, hey, the economy's great. Go out and spend money because it helps me, right? It may be silly and stupid, but that's not the point. Conflicts of interest exist whether or not you are doing something illegal. I think a lot of people conflate a conflict of interest only when they are doing something they shouldn't be doing. Okay. So that is not the issue. The issue is there the possibility or the appearance of impropriety that could happen? So even in my business, what we could not do is I could not have a spouse that was in the sales business, doing something on commission. So for example, I had another coworker whose wife was a real estate agent, and she was going through real estate agent training. And what they determined is that he either needed to go into another role because she was going to be in a sales role and he was in a sales role. And the idea was that they could potentially refer clients or push business to each other and things like that. Or she would have to go into something else, right? So even in the role that I was in, you had to disclose what people in your immediate family also did. Okay, that's how important it is, because what they don't want is me selling financial advice or products or recommendations, knowing that my wife or my spouse or your spouse is getting paid handsomely by someone else that ultimately impact my family's finances, that might impact my judgment and my recommendations, right? This is why we do it. Again, that's kind of the um, most powerful example of it. But most of the time, these conflict of interest aren't that obvious, and they're very small, and that's why we don't want to have this. Now in this case, this person's company says you cannot financial coach on the side, and her question was, well, can I do a little bit, and then just wait till the income is significant enough that then I claim it, or then I approach them about it. But for just the small ones, I don't feel like I'd have to do that. Should I? This bugs me in particular, because as financial coaches, I want to, one, know that you know your stuff, two, that you are unbiased and objective, but three, also honest. And because I think you're going to see in financial coaching that a lot of people, the people that are really desperate, maybe aren't doing things as honestly as they should, or being as ethical, or being as up and up, right? And it's our job to kind of be a North Star for them in some ways. But if you are already compromising yourself for, let's call it, small amounts of money, not livable wages at this point, then what happens when there is the possibility to have larger amounts of money? And this is exactly why this institution has this particular policy. And this one is very black and white to me, that you shouldn't be doing it. It one speaks to your own personal morals, right? But secondly, when someone else has footed the bill, in this case, someone, an institution, donors, have come together to say, hey, can we fundraise to have this money so that, hey, if you're the employee, we're going to pay for your certification and training, pay you a wage, potentially benefits, and all these things so that you can help these people. And if you're going out and using those resources that we have provided as the organization or company, institution, to enrich yourself, that's not the point. I mean, if you were a police officer and you were issued a patrol car, then would you use that patrol car in the evening to Uber people around town, right? That might seem very obviously wrong, but why isn't it just as obvious then when someone has provided you other resources? Maybe you don't see the value in them, but the AFC is thousands of dollars to get, the other resources and salaries, talking potentially tens of thousands, just because it's not tangible, and that someone sees a police car doing an Uber, and so it's very obvious, but because you can do it more in the shadows doesn't make it any more right. Right. So the conflict of interest exists as soon as you put yourself in a position that something bad can happen. It does not have to actually happen for the conflict of interest to exist. You just have to have the possibility. And that's why they don't allow it. They don't want your work to be bastardized, to be tainted, to be suspicious in any way. Right. They are paying so that they can get this unadulterated, pure help, um, you know, um, unbiased help to people, right? So that people can come in, and it's really about the institution's reputation, the donor's reputation, like all of that. And if someone comes in and they work with someone, and then they find out, hey, Jane Doe also bartends down at the bar, and she was telling this person about, going out and finding a part-time job or whatever it might be, or come down to the bar, if you're going out to enjoy some drinks with your friends, come down to my bar, some of those things, then it's not unbiased advice. That might not be good advice. That might be advice that helps you, but also helps me. And that's not what this is about, right? The beauty of financial coaching, life coaching, business coaching, whatever, is that my primary mission should be to support you. That's why I don't really care what your billing method is. What I want to know is that we're graduating people out of coaching when they don't need it, or we're encouraging people to come into it when we know that they need it, right? But what I want to do is put their needs above my own. in some ways to be something of a fiduciary for them, right? Even though we don't have that legal obligation, but I want to put their interest first. And by um, having things on the side that may taint our suggestions and that may be strictly against a corporate policy is not something that is going to help you launch in an honest way. You want to get off the ground here in the purest, most ethical way possible. You do not want to start your career here on a lie or on something that's worse, that might get you terminated, that might get you sued, right? This is not a business that is just a smash and grab, flash in the pan. This is a business that relies heavily on trust, heavily on relationships for the long term. So please, if you have a policy that you hate, but it is to avoid conflict of interest, please understand that that is something to be revered. It is not something to be flirted with around the edges, because that's not the kind of practice that you want to run. Okay. Just my opinion on it. Uh, Hopefully that helps. See you later.